precursors to the modern day reforms. A lot of Enlightenment ideas, at least like what you said in your paper, that although they had good ideas in theory when they were instituted in Latin America because of policy wars for independence or divided elite ideologies as far as what kind of governments we want, sort of made it hard for the reforms to be successful. So I feel that some of these reforms, I guess, didn't really help Latin America as much as they could have, sort of.
But we saw, for example, last week a film here about the justice reforms in Colombia. No, you remember? And we saw how was the old system and how is the new system in parallel. And the question is, do you have something of enlightenment in this reform? Do you see something of enlightenment?
I mean, if you think of the ideas of liberalism and the idea of enlightenment that developed human dignity, I think that's sort of very important, at least in modern day reforms, where you're considering the well-being of not just the elite people, but also the people that are poor and in need of help. So I think that's definitely a lasting effect of the Enlightenment.
Yeah. Human dignity and the use of reason to progress, to have
and also
progress.
the use of sort of like
More
scientific like developments in order to benefit the people, not just to
faster procedures. That's related.
Yeah.
So, good. Go to the liberalism.
Okay. So
How can you define the first?
So as defined at the beginning of your paper, it said that liberalism, developed in the 19th and 20th centuries, is a middle-class movement for liberalization. And there were, I have 6 characteristics of the movement. It had its origins in Western Europe during the 17th and 18th century. It was a very bourgeoisie mentality, like in the definition, it was a middle-class movement. It expanded the concept of sovereignty because the monarchy was no longer more autonomous than citizens. They had power as well. And so the idea of popular sovereignty came into being. Also emphasized equality among all humans, as well as necessary equality before the law. All right, also, okay, so one form was freedom in economics. Freedom of buyers and sellers, elimination of taxes, free trade, natural supply and demand laws should be the governors of transactions. So everything was very open and sort of free.
There are a main concept of property. The property, how can you define in liberalism the property, this idea?
How can you define it what?
Yeah, the property. Why is the property is something like a thing, or the property is a concept?
As intellectual property? Is that what
No. As a definition of property, because in liberal thinking, property is a main concept, very important concept. But what are the implications of this concept for day-to-day life, for political life, for economical life, etc.?
Well, of property, I'm actually not sure. I didn't read about it.
You're talking about like the difference in communal property and like private individuals?
Yeah, but what produced the property? What produced the property? The property is a consequence of something important in the human being.
Not from labor. From your personal labor.
That is a way to, but.
I think you were talking about it like earlier in the semester, that it's an extension of the self.
Yeah.
Like it's
exactly.
It turned, like back in the day, if you have property, that means you were a human being.
Exactly. That is an extension of human being. So because of is a main concept in liberalism.
Now,
The emphasis of property by liberalism had to do with a philosophy about the property, the relation between a human being and world, and the external world of the individual. And through the property, the individuals interact and produce all things. And the property is the most important, or one of the most important expressions of the human being, of the nature of the human being. And because of the defense of the property is essential for the common good.
All right. So does this mean that I guess back in that, well, with the liberal reforms, like were they trying to give people property then to try and make them people, like that was the emphasis for the poor, like the poor need property for them to be.
Yeah, exactly. That is a very good point in relation with the context, because the first liberals were not for to defend the property like corporate property. That is not the idea of corporate properties or companies or something like that. It's the idea to defend the conditions to have a better social, economical, and political order. They were like another important movement in the 19th century, for example, socialism and others. They tried to produce property for all people, because the property was the key to achieve a better order. That was.
Whose ideas were these? Who were the thinkers?
The thinkers. Well, you have John Locke, very important thinker. You have another important thinker, Adam Smith, and his Epigonos. And the argumentation of Adam Smith in The Wealth of the Nations is exactly, he began with theological reasons.
Right.
Why?
But they put forward the concept of property as an extension of self.
Of human nature.
Right. Well, I thought Locke's concept of property was actually based on personal labor. And if you grab a bunch of nuts and bring them over here, you're nuts. That was the example he used. It was through the work of carrying that they became his property.
Oh, it's a way to produce property.